What are your thoughts to the New York Jets? Robert Sala's rookie head coaching last 4 games, Mike LaFleur's rookie offensive coordinating, and obviously Zach Wilson as a rookie quarterback. Are you surprised that the New York Jets' offense has been so obsolete? And were you surprised that the Jets put on a great showing last Sunday to knock off the Tennessee Titans, who didn't look that good either?
Well, if you've seen Tennessee play defense for the last year plus, you couldn't be super shocked. Remember last year, they got off to a 5-0 start. They went into Cincinnati, they weren't playing very well. And when you have a poor defense, you can make an ordinary offense look good. And that's exactly. There were 14 teams made the playoffs last year. Of the 14 teams, Tennessee was 14th in terms of points allowed. They scored a lot of points. They were 4th in the league. But they really couldn't stop anyone all year. And, they brought in some edge rushers and Danico Autry and Bud Dupree. But we saw them get blasted by the Arizona Cardinals in week 1. And a lot of that was their offensive line issues, and they couldn't block Chandler Jones. So Mike Rabel's team is one of those teams that everything's got to be going right. But defensively, they don't look much different than they did a year ago. And again, if you want to build the team's confidence like the New York Jets, who came into that game scoring 20 points in 3 games, that's like a quarter for the Tennessee Titans. Line up against Tennessee. Line up against a poor defensive team. Line up against Kansas City right now. Kansas City isn't stopping anyone. They went wild at Philadelphia last week. Patrick Mahomes' 5-touchdown pass still gave up 30 points.
I would like to ask now about the Chiefs' defense. How much of a legitimate concern do you think it is for them? We know they have some talent, but performing the way they have so far in terms of being a championship caliber team in the AFC, especially with their division now playing well the way they've had.
Yeah, they're one of, I think, 2 divisions where no team has a losing record, but they're at the bottom at 2-2. Andy Reid probably learned his lesson a couple of years ago during Patrick Mahomes' MVP year when they scored, 565 points? Gave up 421. One of my favorite historical stats, and the Chiefs fall under this category because they're one of them. The 12 highest scoring teams in NFL history, points in the season. No Super Bowl rings. None. Mm. Points come out of the passing game. My old friend Ron Jaworski, it's one of his favorite things. No quarterbacks led the league in passing yards and won the Super Bowl the same year. And that's 55 years. That's a pretty good body of work. So you see all these numbers getting put up, but if you don't play defense, it really doesn't matter. Okay? And I know they keep on changing the rules and tweaking things, and they're always trying to make things better for the offense. But I know this. I've seen the last 3 Super Bowls, and 2 teams failed to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. The Rams against the Patriots, the Chiefs against the Bucs.
Are you surprised right now of what Justin Herbert is doing? Justin Herbert is breaking records as a second-year quarterback. He's been sensational, knocked off the Oakland Raiders. That was one of the undefeated teams. Are you surprised that he has been at the top of his game? And are you surprised he's been the best quarterback in the last 3 years of the last 3-year drafts?
Well, he has picked up where he left off last year. And you remember early in the season, he got thrust into a starting job in week 2 when Tyrod Taylor couldn't answer the bell, which was not his fault, medical issue and so on, and hasn't stopped since. And I think the difference now is he learns the game and what he can do and what he can't do, is they are learning how to win, because in the beginning of the year last year they were learning how to lose. 17-point lead blown here and there and here and there, and just finding ways to lose games. Now all of a sudden they're 7-1 in their last 8 games. The 4-game winning streak at the very end. I didn't see a lot of Justin Herbert at Oregon because I don't see a lot of college football. But when you see him on the field, he has that feel of a guy who's been doing this for 4 or 5 years. And listen, you got to be already impressed with Brandon Staley as a head coach. The Chargers defense, which has been pretty damn good the first couple of weeks. I know Kansas City hung 24 on them and so on, but they held the Raiders to 14 points. they're winning games late and not squandering leads. And what Brandon Staley did with the Rams last year can't be underestimated. I mean, it's almost like he seems like he came out of nowhere. Okay, but you remember the last few years, the Rams had had their share of talent on defense, led by Aaron Donald, obviously, and Jalen Ramsey and so on. And remember when Sean McVay first got there, they hired Wade Phillips to be the defensive coordinator. And listen, they had plenty of sacks, and they had plenty of takeaways, and they gave up plenty of yards rushing. And they weren't as staunch as you would think. And then Brandon Staley goes in last year, and they give up the fewest yards in the league. They give up the fewest points in the league. And you look what he's doing with the Chargers right now. They are getting stops, and they're making life easier for their offense. And, not only are they 3-1, they're already 2-0 in the division, and that can't be underestimated.
So I want to go from an overperforming to an underperforming team. You had a lot of tweets recently about the Steelers, the relationship with Big Ben and Mike Tomlin not going so well. We've heard Juju Smith-Schuster on a hot mic say this is Ben's fault, not really liking him, taking shots at his quarterback. So what do you think the ultimate fallout is going to be of that? How do you think it's going to last throughout the season? And do you think it could lead to a scenario where somebody could get fired, somebody could get traded? What do you think will end up happening with that?
Well, I know this. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 head coaches since 1969, which I'm guessing is well before either one of you were born. Okay? It is not well before I was born. Okay? So they're not a knee-jerk reaction. Listen, for the first 40 years of their existence, guys, they were that team that dumped coaches and dumped quarterbacks. And, their first 40 years of existence, they won 1 playoff game. I'm sorry, they won 0 playoff games. They only made an appearance in 1. They were the early version of the Buccaneers or the early version of the Saints or even the Cleveland Browns as we know them now. And so they were horrible. And then they hired Chuck Noll, and now the rest is history. They changed their philosophy. But they might have to change their philosophy again here. As Ben looks like a wounded fighter. Their offensive line is abysmal. I believe now going back to November last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not rushed for at least 100 yards in a game 11 straight games, okay, including the playoff game. And a lot of that is just abandoning the run, okay, or not even bothering. So they don't even resemble a power football team that we have known for a long time. I'll be surprised if I would not be surprised if they sat Ben down, okay, at one time.
Wow.
Okay, I just wouldn't. And I think that's more physically than mentally, okay? He's kneeled down. I don't even know what his status is for this week. There's the new hip issues and so on. It's not like he has not sat down because of injuries before, okay? He's taken a lot of pounding. He's a quarterback. Throughout his career is one of those guys who has hung in the pocket. He has danced around back there. He's had unbelievable success scrambling around. Some of his great plays are, being able to move and so on. And even Mike Tomlin said he can't move like he used to. And behind that offensive line, which has been, I think they're still learning each other's names, much less blocking schemes. Okay, so it just shows you, regardless of who's throwing the football, if you don't have the men up front and you don't have a balanced football attack, you're doomed for failure. So I'm not sure how it's going to play out. That rest of that division, everybody's 3-1 except them. They've already lost at home to Cincinnati, a home divisional game, which they had not done they had not lost to Cincinnati at home in a while, and so on. So I'm not sure. But here's what I will say, and it's jump forward. Next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in a position they haven't been that I really can't remember. They are actually going to have a ton of salary cap room. And this is a team that's been up against the cap for years and years and years. So next year, are they a team that relies on the draft? Do they draft a quarterback? Do they go out and sign a free agent and invest big money? Okay, we saw New England, who is not usually a team that opens up their checkbook, open up their checkbook this offseason with Jonnu Smith and Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar and Hunter Henry and so on. Could the Steelers do something like that? Again, that's next year. This year, I think they're just going to try and hold on for dear life.
Now, Russ, you mentioned the New England Patriots, and New England spent a lot of money this offseason, almost $135 million. That is not Bill Belichick-esque. Over the last, I would say, 15, 20 years, he stuck with Tom Brady. Now, obviously, drafting Mac Jones at number 15. Mac Jones has been the best out of all the young quarterbacks because he fits the system. Now, when you talk about the last couple of weeks, and really last week against Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football, are you surprised that the Patriots, for the first time in almost 20 years, is starting the season 1-3 and not playing good football with the money that they spent?
Well, it shows you that, and you guys know this from every sport, okay? Investing big money doesn't necessarily mean success, okay? I'm a baseball casual, okay? But I can remember the years during free agency. It always seemed like the Baltimore Orioles were spending a whole bunch of money on players, and they never seemed to get any better, okay? So when you try to build through free agency, that's a lot different than plugging little holes in free agency. And you've got a whole bunch of players here who, again, chemistry, knowing each other, rookie quarterback, especially guys who you're trying to develop rapport with in terms of pass catching and so on. So you've got at least these 4 new faces here. So it takes time. And, it really takes time for some of these teams to get together. And get their act together and so on because of the way training camp is run and practices and, preseason. We actually saw teams not play anybody for the first 2 games and actually play them in the preseason game because there was going to be such a lull. When eventually, and I'm not breaking news here, okay, when eventually we get to an 18-game season, which I think is in the card somewhere down the line, 4 or 5 years, and they start playing 2 preseason games, and those preseason games will mean a little more, building momentum. It always seems in recent years to me that the first 4 weeks of the NFL season seems like the preseason. And the preseason for a while there seemed like training camp. It's like they're a month behind. And, how many times have we seen New England go 2-2 and win the Super Bowl or lose their opener and win the Super Bowl? You got to build. And listen, we saw that with Tampa Bay last year, 7-5 after 12 games. Push the right buttons, win a Super Bowl. So to answer your question, I don't think I'm totally surprised after, and especially after the year they had last year. And by the way, they also spent some money on defense as well. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because they had some holes there. They haven't stopped the run in about 2 years. That's been a big, big problem for them. We saw Nick Chubb go up there one year and blast them. Then they went to Baltimore the after week, and Lamar Jackson killed them. And then we saw Derrick Henry run over them. So how many times do you see a Bill Belichick defense get abused on the ground like that? Not often. And when you don't, it's hard to score when you don't have the football. Okay? I mean, I looked this up. I did extensive research. No quarterback has ever thrown a touchdown pass while he's on the sidelines.
So staying with the Patriots, they made a big move today with Stephon Gilmore, trading him to the Carolina Panthers. A rumor that was thought of right around the draft. They were thinking maybe the Panthers might trade the number 8 overall pick to the Patriots for Stephon Gilmore, and then it kind of resumed again in the preseason. Then it died out again, but now they only trade him for only a 6th round pick. Are you surprised that they sold short the way they do? Not something you normally see out of the Patriots.
No, but you also see this. With these, especially when it comes to these mid-season trades and so on, where you try to trade someone, Listen, the early reports was that he was flat out released, and then all of a sudden they were able to get it. And by the way, it's a 6th round pick in 2023, so it's not even next year.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
You see that. On the trade, we can get 4 first-round picks from. In what country are you talking about? You're going to get 4 first-round picks for anyone, okay? I mean, that you've heard that with the Deshaun Watson stuff and so on. If they know you're trying to get rid of them, okay, they'll wait and see if you actually cut them, okay? So it's as simple as that. So I'm not super surprised at the compensation because none of that surprises me anymore. To be honest with you, and who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to mid-season and so on. It's I'm sure the Cowboys. I don't know this. I'm sure the Cowboys tried to trade Jalen Smith. Okay, and when they did, they finally released him, and then Green Bay picked him up. So we'll see a couple more moves like that over the next couple of weeks.